right, well, everybody, welcome to, this is a bonus episode, and it's not 412 Sports Talk. It is 412 Movie Talk this week. This is a bonus episode. This is in addition to our episode with Derek Bell covering the Pittsburgh Steelers draft stuff. We did, if you want to check that out, we did a Pittsburgh Steelers mock draft live on the show.
All 7 rounds.
All 7 rounds. It got pretty pretty monotonous by the end of it there, but I had fun with it. It was something cool to do.
Who should we take in the 7th round? This guy that we haven't heard of ever, or this guy that we haven't heard of ever?
But this bonus episode, you'll see a new face to the show. Rich Humes, who I'm sure you guys have heard of because we've shouted out his podcast. He's all over Twitter. It is the Why Bloody Valentine podcast, where he does movie reviews of mostly horror movies, right?
Yeah, just about all horror movies.
All horror movies. And so I'm not much of a horror movie guy. My wife loves horror movies, so I have to watch them with her. She loves them, and I've been telling her to check your podcast out.
By the way, so I'm not going to kiss your ass because you're on. We're doing, we've been friends on social media for a long time. But here's what's funny about making friends on social media. So me and Rich have followed each other, like, I'm telling you, for like a decade, right? When I heard his voice, I was like, I mean, do you ever like meet somebody and their voice is just like, nope, that's not what I expected. I did not expect that at all. And that's him. But does he not have like a goddamn podcast voice? Like
he does, man. He does.
You should be paid to do audible readings, like the book readings. Like that's the kind of voice you have.
Well, I definitely appreciate that, but whenever I edit my podcast, all I do is cringe at the sound of my voice.
Dude.
We all do, man. We all do.
I used to work at a call center a few years ago, and any job that you ever have where like their calls are recorded for quality purposes, you'll have like sessions where you have to listen to yourself on the phone, and I'm telling you, that's cruel punishment to have to do that.
Yeah, it's torture, man.
I'm glad Eddie edits our podcast, so I don't have to hear my voice.
But we figured we would enlist the expert opinions and just the knowledge of Rich and his movie breakdowns, because Chad and I were having some pretty good off-air conversations about the DC Justice League Zack Snyder cut. And it's a 4-hour-long marathon. I don't think that it needed to be 4 hours, and we'll get into that, but it was a 4-hour-long marathon, and we figured we'd do a little movie breakdown for those of you who maybe want to check us out, wanted to watch the podcast, but aren't really sports people. So we would talk some movies today. And so we'll jump right into it. Overall thoughts for you two on the Zack Snyder cut?
Guest goes first.
All right. Well, you probably couldn't have picked somebody that was less likely to enjoy this movie, because if there's one thing I can't stand about movies, it's when they're too long. Like, I like a good 100 minutes in and out. You should be able to tell the story in that amount of time.
So you didn't like The Irishman either, I'm guessing.
No, I'm not saying I don't like any movies that are super long, but it has to be real good for that to happen. If you're going to make a movie like this that's 40 minutes longer than Schindler's List, it better be really good.
Yeah.
And I don't particularly like Zack Snyder.
You didn't like 300?
I didn't like 300. I liked Dawn of the Dead.
To me, that's his best, yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. And I liked The Watchmen enough, even though that was super long.
But here's the thing. I loved Man of Steel. I thought Man of Steel on its own was a great Superman movie.
I did too. I loved Man of Steel. I loved 300. It's probably top 10 in my personal movies. I loved it.
So you didn't like Man of Steel?
I liked it like enough. You know what I mean? It was
right.
It was pretty good. As far as the movies that the DCEU is made up of, it's one of the better ones.
Yeah, for sure. Which isn't saying something. Yeah.
Wonder Woman. But honestly, and I broke this movie up. I watched about 25% of it, then 25% of it, and then I watched the other half of it because I really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
I see the first time through I had some the first time I watched it twice. I watched it once by myself, not realizing that it was 4 hours long. I turned it on I was like, all
What
right,
the
it's
hell?
11 o'clock. I don't start work until 9:30. I figured I'll start it at 11 o'clock. I got my HBO Zone account and everything, and that, or HBO Max, whatever it is now, and was like, all right, cool. I'll sit down for a couple hours, like get to bed, and still get a nice 8 hours of sleep in.
Mhm.
And then I hit play and saw that it was a 4 hour long movie. I was like, well, gonna be a long day tomorrow. My first time through it, I thought they went too much into the character development, for like redoing all of the character development.
Well, Cyborg needed it the most.
He needed it, yeah.
Because if you watch the first movie, I'm like, what the heck? You could tell that Josh Whedon was like, listen, you could tell that if he had his if he had full control, that he would have just cut Cyborg out of that goddamn movie, because he literally undid everything involving his character in the theatrical version. And then Zack Snyder was like, well, he was like Uno reverse, and then was like, we're going to make this whole movie about Cyborg, because he was like the main character, basically.
Right. And for me, like, and I guess this is where I appreciate Marvel, where they took the time to give each character pretty much their own movie.
Yeah, weird how, like, if you had a Cyborg movie, you wouldn't have had to tell his origin story in Justice League.
The Cyborg movie would be an awesome thing. And so that was like at first time through, that was what I was annoyed with that. You had mentioned, I don't want to steal your thunder, but the 15 minutes of yodeling in the first in the Aquaman cut,
and that's Zack Snyder's biggest thing, is like, he'll take the most simplest scene, like here's how you would write that screen, like our friend Josh Jabolski, him and I are writing a TV show together right now to try to pitch to Netflix, and you write a simple scene like, Batman goes to recruit Aquaman. Aquaman resists. That's the scene, right? That's the only information you need out of that scene. And Zack Snyder managed to make it 15 minutes long somehow. Like, how? Like, how do you, like, what are these women yodeling for on the beach? What does this have to do with anything?
Yeah, I think they could have cut that down. I think it added something, like it a little bit of the origin, a little bit of the feel of the, of that scene, but like, it didn't have to be that long. But that was my first time through. That was the big thing, was like, okay, you're spending a lot of time setting stuff up where you just want to get into the story a little bit. But the second time through, I kind of appreciated that more. And before I keep rambling, I mean, what was, like, do you think that they took the character development too far, or do you think, I mean, what?
Well, no, because in the first Justice League, the theatrical cut that Josh Whedon had done, there wasn't enough. There wasn't enough.
There was almost
character development.
Yeah.
It was like, here's all these characters, and by the way, we haven't built anyone up besides Superman, who's only been Superman for like a year, and he's already dead for some reason. But yeah, here's the Justice League, and then this one was like the reverse of that. So he kind of, I'm not gonna begrudge Zack Snyder, because he wasn't able, this is not what he wanted to do originally. He did want to he had like a 5-movie plan and stuff like that. So this is what he had to do, was force all this shit into one 4-hour movie. My qualms with Zack Snyder is just like, there was easily 40 minutes that should have been trimmed from this movie. And then, like Rich said, then you have a 3 hour and 15-minute movie. And all of a sudden, I don't think anyone says anything about the length if that happens. Like, all the slow motion shit, all, like, the Barry Allen scene, right? Like, that, I don't even know what, I had to ask myself what the hell I was watching when the truck driver, like, okay, what professional truck driver is, like, looking down at the car in the middle of a city and stuff like this? That scene was stupid. There were so many scenes that just did not, if your scene does not move the plot, then it is not a needed scene. So we went from one version that was cut way too much to another movie that wasn't cut enough. And they just, DC can never find that happy medium.
I actually went back when Eddie asked me to do the podcast, and the original cut of the Justice League was so forgettable. Like,
it's horrible.
It's just garbage. So I watched it again because I didn't remember anything about it. So before I watched the Snyder Cut, I watched that. And my biggest beef with the theatrical version was they didn't build these characters anymore. And it's going to sound like a weird argument, but I still don't think they built him enough, honestly, in this movie, because there's 4 movies in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Joss Whedon kind of gets shit on, but he was given a pretty impossible task because Warner Brothers wanted him to make this movie 2-ish hours. That was
they said 2 hours. Yeah, they were like
That's
2
it.
hours. Yeah.
That's all he got.
Mm-hmm.
There was some things in his cut that really annoyed me when he had time limitations, specifically that weird Russian family storyline. Like, if you have no time and you're already trying to jam all these origin stories into there, why would you put that in the movie? And I was so happy Zack Snyder cut it out.
Yeah, if anything, you could have took the stuff that he cut from Cyborg story, which was way more imperative to the ending and the plot and everything.
Right.
And if you take the Cyborg stuff and then replace the Russian family stuff with the Cyborg stuff, it's a little that would have at least been a better trade-off.
Yeah, but then you don't get to see Superman flying around with a building.
Oh, so. True.
Like, I'll tell you another one that I think, and maybe this will be funny coming from a sports talk show. I don't think that the full football scene that they put in for Cyborg needed to be, for Victor Stone, needed to be there. And then also, he's a college football starting quarterback, just wins a championship game against Wisconsin, and his mom's driving him home from the game.
That's nitpick. Listen, man, that's far from this movie's problem.
No,
but I get what you're saying.
Like, those are little things that I saw, but like, I think we're all in agreement. There were probably ways where they could have cut down on this, at least by a half hour.
Because I'm not a huge Zack Snyder fan either, although I do love Man of Steel, and I think Man of Steel is one of the most underrated comic book movies of all time. I really think it's that good. It's a great if you just view it as a Superman movie by itself,
I'm actually
100%
with you on that. I love that movie.
But I'm not going to hold anything about him trying to put all this character development in there, because it's not his fault that Warner Brothers was like, hey, we need to make a Justice League film. Like, that's why Marvel's not ahead because Marvel comics are better than DC comics, because for one thing, they're not. Batman and Superman are far and away the most popular comic book characters to ever exist. There's no debate about that. It's objectively proven that they are the 2 most popular characters on this earth. Spider-Man's probably 3rd. But what Marvel is Marvel is organized. Kevin Feige, who runs Marvel, has a plan. He has an actual plan, whereas Warner Brothers is like, you know what? Guardians of the Galaxy did good. We should do like Suicide Squad. Yeah, well, how's that going to fit? It doesn't matter. Just make it funny and have the Joker and Harley Quinn in it. There's no plan. They're just throwing shit at the wall.
And then you've got like 2 different Joker movies. You got a different Joker movie. You got
by the way,
a new Batman movie. You got a new, like,
if I may,
too much, man.
I love Jared Leto. I think Jared Leto is a very talented person. I think he's a great actor. He won the Academy Award. His Joker is
not good.
Is treasonous to comic books. It is so cringe, and how any of these guys, these directors and people at Warner Brothers, can watch like the ending. The stuff at the end is actually kind of cool. Like, that, and that's why I wanted to see Justice League Part 2 was Darkseid's going to come, and then Superman's. It's basically the Injustice storyline for those of you who know what Injustice is. But like that Joker, I mean, that is the epitome of. It's the most cringiest thing I've seen on screen in quite some time, and I can't believe that those people making that film and then editing it and are like watching it like, yeah, this is good. Like, no, that shit sucks, dude. I'm sorry, Jared Leto's cool as hell. That shit sucks.
I thought the epilogue was probably the worst part of the movie, honestly.
Yeah.
And that was all the shit that they went back and reshot. That was all reshots.
Yeah.
I did not like. Okay, that. See, I don't want to keep downplaying this movie because I loved it. I really enjoyed it, but that epilogue was. Why? Like, what?
And it was like
I get, like, okay, so I get that you're probably, because of what the Flash said. Or what? Not what the Flash said. It's going to be in the Flash movie, but what Steppenwolf said to Darkseid, or one of Darkseid's other guys, Desaad, when he mentioned the multiverse. So it looks like they're going to be exploring different timelines. Like you said, they're going to get into the Injustice thing. So I understand where they were going with that epilogue, but it just felt so forced at the end of the movie to try to get that little bit in.
I was confused. Because I watched this whole thing in one sitting, and it was like really late at night, so I was like ready to go to sleep. and I was like, is another movie starting?
Yeah, and then like it just like, and then all of a sudden Bruce Wayne wakes up from a dream. It's like it didn't fit, man. Like I don't.
Then by the way, Martian Manhunter comes and is like, "Hey, I'm down to help you guys," and I'm sitting there thinking like, "Where the hell were you?
Where were you the whole movie?" Yeah.
Yeah, I legitimately thought that he had that one scene where he pretended to be Clark Kent's mom.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Yeah. And like I do appreciate from a storytelling standpoint them, making Lois like the key to making sure that Superman like kind of tethered himself back down. I thought that was clever. I thought it was clever that they used Martian Manhunter to do that.
No, that's the best. That's probably the best writing, because Lois and his and his parents are the only things that make him feel like an actual human. So that's fine.
I thought that was great how they did that. Like the whole Superman resurrection in this story, I thought that I thought the best scene in the movie for me was watching Superman fight the other five people.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
That was so good. That was so well done. The fight was so well done, and they finally did him justice, no pun intended, in these movies where like Superman is the badass of DC Comics, and like as far as powers go, and they finally like gave him an accurate portrayal of the type of superhero and being that he is when he's on Earth with a yellow sun. It was so good. I enjoyed that so much.
Yeah, because he only made he had the fight scene, and then he just showed up out of nowhere in the original.
Right.
I think my favorite shot of the entire movie was when Flash was running around Superman, and Superman turns his head.
Oh, that was so good, man. That was so good.
And that was in both movies, but yeah, I think that was probably my favorite shot.
Yeah.
There's no doubt that Zack Snyder understands Superman. I'm not quite sure he understands Batman whatsoever.
See, I actually like Ben Affleck as Bruce Wayne and Batman.
I like Ben Affleck as Batman, but I don't think Zack Snyder and what he has Batman say and do, I don't think he understands the character at all. And then here's a question for you guys, because we all, especially Rich, you like the darker stuff, but there was zero reason and there was zero added to this movie by making it R, other than look how edgy we are.
Yeah, we can say
Batman's gonna say fuck. Oh shit! Like, why? It adds nothing of value to anything.
Yeah, I don't. And that's usually my beef with Zack Snyder is he's kind of an edgelord, like just away from movies. That's why I don't. Yeah, because
like Watchmen had like very like awkward sex scene in the middle of it. I remember watching that shit in theater, and it just kept going and going, and you're just sitting with all these strangers, and this chick's just getting railed on the ship while they play Hallelujah.
Yeah.
Why is this happening?
And I think it kind of puts them at a disadvantage to Marvel, because you can't take your kids there. You can't sell any merchandise then. You can't sell any toys or anything like that.
Like, does Zack Snyder know that in film you can imply things? I don't think he understands what like implying things on screen means. The problem with Zack Snyder is he wants to show everything. Like, if he could, he would just have like scenes where Batman's like getting ready and eating dinner and shit, because he has no sense of filler. He has no sense of understanding like time and film. Like, again, he takes the most simplest scenes and he makes them way longer than they need to be, and that's like, he should be better by now. He's gotten worse as a filmmaker. I don't understand that, because Dawn of the Dead is fantastic, and a lot of people like 300, and a lot of people like Man of Steel. I didn't like Sucker Punch at all. I don't know if you guys ever seen that, but I wasn't a fan of that. But like since then, it's just like more and more. He thinks Zack Snyder is the epitome of thinking quantity over quality. That's what his mind does.
I think a lot of directors are like that. That's why I don't generally like director's cuts unless there was a reason the movies were cut up. Like a lot of the 80s, like specifically the Friday the 13th movies, they were all cut up so they could put them into theaters because of the ratings and stuff. Mm-hmm. Then it makes a little more sense. But a lot of times director's cuts are just directors smelling their own farts.
Look at that. Look at how that character does this. And it's I get where you're throwing down there. And I think that's what Zack Snyder is. He can't. If it were up to me, I'd be like, listen, Zach, how about this? How about you're just in charge of visual effects? Because there's no doubt in my mind the dude is a master when it comes. I mean, some of these scenes, some of these scenes are legitimately like, wow, I always wanted to see these characters do that on screen. Again, Batman. I'll say this: he looks like goddamn Batman from the comics. There's no doubt about that. But that doesn't mean the story is good. That just means the visual effects are good. What DC has going is they think that these cool moments are going to help them catch up. But Marvel has the reason why people love the big moments in Marvel is because they mean something. When Tony Stark dies after 11 movies of being Tony Stark and going to battle with all these guys, it means something. When you kill Superman in his sequel out of shock value, and then you're like, well, isn't that cool, guys? Like, no, what the hell? He just became Superman and he's dead already. What the hell?
But I think that goes back to not having a plan too.
Yeah.
DC seemingly just panicked because Marvel was doing so well. But the difference between DC and Marvel is the Marvel movies are essentially kids movies that are fun for adults to watch too. So they can get everybody on board with them. Whereas the DC movies, especially with Zack Snyder, are adult movies that maybe your kids will like.
Yeah. And it doesn't need to be that way. You have Batman. Look, here's what look at The Dark Knight. Christopher Nolan, The Dark Knight is not even really a Batman movie. It's a movie about terrorism, if you think about it. Like, that's what that movie is about. It's about terrorism and how we deal with terrorists in society. And it has a bunch of other themes. You need a good story. It does not matter if you have Batman and Superman and Lex Luthor and all these people and you're just jamming shit into it. It's like someone in the kitchen that just keeps putting in all these ingredients and you're like, wait a minute, what the hell are you making? And that's exactly what it is. He's like a mad chef. And it's not all Zack Snyder's fault. I mean, someone at Warner Brothers is a mess. They might be on the right track because now they have someone in charge now. Walter Hamada, I think, is now in charge. And the other guy that gave himself a $9 million bonus after they laid off a whole bunch of people is gone. So that might be a good thing. But they just need to go back. Like, again, here's a perfect example. Joker, right? That movie made $1 billion and it won Academy Awards, right? That just shows you that it doesn't matter what the character is. Look at WandaVision. They made an Emmy level show about WandaVision, about the Scarlet Witch and the Vision, who are like B-level characters in Marvel, and you can't even get Batman and Superman right.
Yeah, well, I think Batman works better when the villains aren't destroying the world. When he's saving Gotham.
Yeah.
You can't go really anywhere after you have the entire world at risk.
And when you have Superman, because you
don't even need Batman if you have Superman.
So Eddie, what did you like? If you were giving this movie we can do the corny thing like thumbs up or force would you watch it again? Like, would you sit down and watch this whole thing again?
I've already watched it twice, so I mean,
Jesus Christ, that's a whole work day.
Yeah. I watched it by myself, and then we were actually we had a little get together for wasn't exactly a bachelor party for my brother, but it was just kind of a get together, and we were gonna have a fire, but it was entirely too cold, so they wanted to watch it, so I just watched it again. So with all those guys, so I would say I'd give it like a 4 out of 5.
Really?
Yeah, I really look like especially the second time through. Like, I thought the fight scenes were great. I was a DC kid growing up. Like, my dad was huge into
everybody knows how much I love Batman.
He was huge DC. into comic books, and I was always into like Batman, Superman, and Green Lantern were always my three big ones. And to see Superman come back as strong as he did, and to see, the only thing that was missing for me was the Green Lantern, really.
I mean,
I thought that Cyborg went from being a superhero that I knew about to I legitimately think he's going to be one of my favorite characters in the upcoming DC movies. I love how they did everything with him. I thought the acting was great with him. I really like Cyborg.
If you like Cyborg, if you want to start if I don't know how much you read comics, but go get some fucking Teen Titan stuff, man, because that's where he shines.
So I mean, I thought, like I said, it was a little long. And I thought,
Just a little.
it was a little long, and the character development was a little, I think, a little drawn out for me, where in places it didn't need to be. And then, like I said, the epilogue was just pointless. Other than those three things for me, and I know I spent a lot of time talking about those three things. Other than that, though, I thought it was a well put together movie. It was awesome to finally see Darkseid. I liked how they had the Atlanteans and the Amazonian women and the men of Earth, like, all together.
And actually, if you watch that scene, there is a Green Lantern in there too.
Yeah, there is a Green Lantern. It's not, obviously it's not Hal Jordan, but like there is a Green Lantern, and I just really like how they leaned into a little bit of like the Greek mythology and that kind of stuff. Like I thought they really, like, this was a shock. I wasn't expecting to like it this much. I really thought DC like swung for the fences with this, and I mean I think that if this is what it's going to be moving forward, if this is what we have to look forward
It's
to,
not.
it's not. But if it were, this would be the road that I could see DC finally having, a little bit of a say so in the superhero movie world, getting back to what they did with the Dark Knight and all that kind of, because to me, there's no trilogy better than the Dark Knight.
Oh, I mean, I'll die on
that
hill.
trilogy is that's number
People,
one for me.
People don't. I think people know by now not to even don't slander the Dark Knight around me.
But yeah, I really enjoyed it. The only thing, like, really, like, if I had to pick one thing to change, man, I bought a 70-inch TV for a reason, and wasn't to have the sides of it cut off by 4x3 just because he wanted to prove a point about the up and down, how, the flight stuff. Like, that was so stupid.
That pissed so many people off.
Oh, yeah, you have to watch it on a smaller screen. It's nuts.
It drove me nuts, man. I was ready to go pull the old tube TV out of my grandparents' attic just to watch this, so I didn't have the black screen, the black bars on the edge.
Rich, if you were doing if you did this movie on your podcast, what do you think? Would you recommend it to your audience?
Yeah, I mean, I really liked it. I couldn't believe I liked it. I went into it thinking about the things I was going to say on this podcast about how much I hated it. That's how much I didn't think I was going to like it. But like he said, he'd give it 4 out of 5. I probably would too.
Wow.
Mostly, I think, because it improved vastly on the original version.
Mm-hmm.
Snyder did a good job splitting it up. So what is it? 5 parts in the epilogue.
Mm-hmm.
You could watch this like a TV show. He did a pretty good job doing that.
I thought, I'll let you continue, but I thought originally they said they were going to release it like a mini series. And to me, that's what I would have done.
Yeah, I probably would have too.
And it also would have helped out HBO Max, which isn't their sales aren't as high, because that would have gave, like, again, it just shows you how ahead of the game Marvel is. Where look at people. I was fiending for another WandaVision. I need to know what happens next, and there was there's no sense of that with DC. You already know what's going to happen. So I thought they should have did that for sure.
Yeah, well, Marvel has the advantage of that Mickey Mouse money, so
yeah, true.
They can produce quite a lot of stuff.
It's not like Warner Brothers is starving.
No, but I don't think Looney Tunes is doing as well as the mouse. I think he improved it every place that it could be improved. I think he did with what he was tasked with doing. I don't think you could have made the movie much better, no matter what you did. I think he did about, with the hand he was dealt, with what they were expecting the movie to be, I think he made probably the best version of the movie you could make. You probably didn't need 40 minutes or whatever of slow motion in a 4-hour movie.
Yeah, I'll give you that. Yeah, that's fair.
And he's like, every movie you watch besides Dawn of the Dead. I don't even know if Dawn of the Dead might have some slow motion to it. I can't remember, but Watchmen, 300, Man of Steel, Batman versus Superman, and it's like, bro, learn a new.
You were saying the visual aspect of the movie. I think you kind of have to accept that with it.
That's fair.
Steppenwolf looked light years better in Snyder's Cut. Way better.
Yeah.
I thought Snyder did a good job of actually making him like
I'll say that he actually had a story. Like
villain.
Again, the theatrical version, he just shows up and it's like, oh, okay, like.
Yeah, who is he? Why? Yeah, like giving him a little bit of a backstory and like an insight
and the
into
stuff with Darkseid.
Yeah,
that made
like
you
he's trying to get back
motives.
into Darkseid's good graces, like that. Yeah, that was
your
good.
villain has to have a motive, and like I don't know if Joss Whedon forgot that or what.
Could you imagine having no knowledge of DC and all your knowledge of Darkseid is Steppenwolf saying his name like twice in the movie? Because you would not know anything about him just from watching the movie.
And I think that's a problem. Like I think DC thinks that only comic book people watch these movies, and it's like, well, for one thing, you better hope that's never true because your box office numbers will die. Because casual movie goers are definitely a big reason why Marvel movies make $1 billion. Yeah, like, hey, not everybody knows who Darkseid is. Like, even there's probably some comic book readers that don't really know that much about Darkseid. It's not like he's the Joker. Like, people know the Joker, right? People know Batman. So I understand you don't need to explain those characters. But Steppenwolf, yeah, that's probably one you want to explain.
And I don't think Darkseid was in any of the other movies, was he? He didn't have.
No, hell no. He's never been on screen before. Yeah,
he's just like a middle manager for Steppenwolf in theatrical cut.
And honestly, he was like alluded to like in some like background Easter eggs, but other than that, he really before this wasn't.
Like, if your audience has to Google shit during the movie, like, what are they talking about? Like, okay. Like, that's not fair to, if I was like, my family, like my mom, my brothers who may not read comics and stuff like that, I would say, hey, you guys want to watch the new Justice League movie? And they're like, well, who's that and why are they doing that? Well, I don't know. They don't tell you. They don't tell you why they're doing it. Like Thanos, you understood his plan and why he was doing it. Like, so frustrating.
Yeah, and he was in multiple movies. Darkseid's obviously or arguably not in this movie enough.
Right.
In the Snyder Cut to even get much of a read on him.
Well, I think he's going to be a big deal in the next. Like, I think they set him up for the next movie.
It's funny because I'm like adding scenes to it, but I'm wondering if the opening should have, like the cold open should have been Steppenwolf coming, like showing him on his way to Earth, and then like something with Darkseid to kind of like again show like, oh, like again he just shows up and it's like, oh, okay, like what are mother boxes? We don't have those explained either, by the way. Infinity Stones, they were literally like integral plot points to different Marvel movies, and then they all connected. And again, I'm not trying to make this a whole DC versus Marvel thing because I'm actually a DC. I like both. I'm not one of those weird people that are like, DC, Marvel. Like, I don't own stock in a company, so I don't have a preference. I want DC to be good. I love these characters so much. Batman, I have Batman tattooed on me, and I know that there's great stories to be told, but again, DC is so worried about Marvel instead of just focusing on making good movies that they're just cramming shit in. And it's hurting their product. And then by hurting their product, now when you go and announce the next DC movie, half the people out there are like, oh, that's probably going to suck too.
And you never know if the next DC movie is going to have anything to do with this universe they're building. Like the Joker movie, who the fuck knows?
Well, James Gunn's going to be releasing his version of Suicide Squad next year.
Then you've got the Robert Pattinson Batman,
which I think is going to be great.
I think it's going to be great too. But again, it's just
it's like,
let's just keep throwing stuff at the wall until it sticks.
Is that Batman in this universe?
So you know how there's rumors going around, not to keep bringing this to Marvel, but the rumors about Spider-Man No Way Home pulling in some of the other
Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire,
and it's already been confirmed that I'm drawing a blank on the actor, but Doctor Octopus will be that the one from the Tobey Maguire. He's actually confirmed. He's actually confirmed. And there's Jamie Foxx's character, the villain that he played, has been confirmed. So it looks like they're going to be exploring it, even if it's multiverse. Just like a quick flyover. But Marvel's going to explore the multiverse a little bit.
But
with
again,
Spider-Man.
they're doing that.
But imagine DC trying to go through the multiverse of all of the Batman and Joker characters.
Well, I think
And
they
again,
are.
Like Adam West is coming in.
No, they are because they're
because Keaton's coming back.
Yeah, they're the Flash paradox.
No.
The Flash is gonna
Michael Keaton is coming back.
Michael Keaton is coming back. Yes.
Oh my
So now you
That
have
was a
Michael
joke.
and
That was a
Ben
joke. I
Affleck's
just-
gonna appear now. That's his last appearance. Is Ben Affleck? He's gonna be in a Flash movie too.
That's
So-
a shame.
Oh man.
And it's like again, to me, for one thing, that's just multiverse shit. That's just fan service to me. Like that's just fan service. Like it's a cheap pop in the theater. Oh, Tobey Maguire. It's cool, but it's not needed. But here's the thing: Marvel has earned that shit. They're doing that on movie 28.
Yeah.
DC's trying to do it on movie 3. And there's a big difference.
I think it's part fan service, but these guys are really backing themselves into a corner. Like Thanos destroyed half the universe. I mean,
Right.
where can you go? Like, who can you fight after that?
Galactus.
You have to explore different timelines.
Galactus needs to come in.
Galactus and Doctor Doom. They're going to bring my boys in the Fantastic Four, who I think are the best
hoping
Marvel
that they
characters
do that.
of all time.
It looks like I mean I guess we're gonna make this right turn here to Marvel and just make it permanent. But I know for certain that they've already casted somebody for Kang the Conqueror.
Oh yeah, well that's going to be Ant-Man 3.
Ant-Man 3, and then I think it's also going to play into some
He'll
others.
probably
Yeah.
he's a big.
He's probably going to be the
I
next
think
big
what
bad before they get
Marvel-
into Galactus
I watched
and
a
Doctor
YouTube
Doom.
video the other day. They have all the stuff going on with the scrolls and the Kree and all that stuff.
Right.
What I think they're leading up to is Secret Wars. Like at the end, like that's going to be the next end game is going to be Secret Wars because that is their Marvel's next big thing outside the Infinity Gauntlet where all the heroes and villains go and fight each other and shit like that. So that's like you said, there's nowhere else. Galactus. And hopefully they don't make him a goddamn cloud this time. Give me Silver Surfer though.
Yeah.
I need Silver Surfer, and
Well,
I
if
need
Galactus
Silver
is
Surfer
gonna be
done
there,
right.
If Galactus is going to be there, I think Silver Surfer has to be there.
Going back to this though. So again, I do think they could have cut 30. I would have cut that whole goddamn epilogue out of the movie if I was the editor, and I would have cut I would have trimmed all the scenes down. Like again, that Aquaman scene. That's the one. I remember I actually watched it twice, right? So the second time I fast forward. Once he got in the water and started swimming, I was like, all right, fast forward to the next scene because these chicks, these creepy ass chicks, she's smelling his sweater. And like, what the hell am I watching? I don't know what I'm watching. They're singing to Aquaman, and it's just not needed at all. It's so dumb. And I'm just like, no one told him, like, hey, Zach, this scene's going on 5 minutes, bud. It's fucking beautiful. Like, okay. Like, I get it, man. You're artsy. We get it. You're super artsy. You're like goddamn Banksy. It's just...
I think overall, though, like I said, I really do think this was one of the better attempts by DC to get something done.
Well, I mean, there was goddamn petitions on it for people to let him finish. And here's the thing. I feel sorry for Zack Snyder because his daughter killed herself, and that was horrible. Then they
Did you see they gave a nice nod to her? Where they had
that billboard.
The billboard, and then her favorite song was "Hallelujah" by Leonard Cohen, and that was the ending credits song.
Oh, that now give him a pass for using that for like the 8th time because that's like the 8th movie he's used that shit in. But my biggest problem, if you guys liked it, you liked it. I'm like, what the hell? Movies are subjective. But the bar is like, oh, well, it's better than the Whedon cut. Well, all right. There's animated DC movies that are better than the Whedon cut. I think if I'm just judging it on its own as a movie, I still just don't think it's very good, and that pains me to say it because I love DC. Like I love Batman, I love Superman, I love these stories. I own all the comics, but Zack Snyder, man, I don't understand what's happened. Man of Steel was good, and he literally went from worse to even worse, in my opinion. And the stories are just so convoluted and. There's no organization, even with him. I can see what he's going for, but even I think he's over his head. Again, you need somebody like Kevin Feige who has the master plan, and then he gives the recipe to a director and a writer, and he lets them do what they want to do, so long as this happens, and it leads to this. Outside of that, you can do that, and Zack Snyder does not have that. They're like, okay, here's Zack Snyder. You can go do whatever you want with these characters. And this is the result, is a mediocre movie.
Why do you think that DC doesn't just scrap the whole thing and start from scratch and do it the right way? Like hire somebody to be a Kevin Feige?
Because they're so worried about catching Marvel. And it's like in sports, if your arch rival was like they stockpiled all these prospects and they're contending for championships, and then like you have someone like a Jim Rutherford come in and just make trade after trade after trade after trade after trade after trade, instead of having a plan and being like, okay, we might not be catching them this year or this year, but we have a plan long term, right? We're gonna turn this thing around, and instead of focusing on yourself, you're worried about your opponent.
Well, Kevin Feige gets all the credit in the world, and it's probably still not enough. I don't know how many Kevin Feiges there are in the world, because even Disney can't do the same thing they did with Marvel with their other properties.
With Star Wars, they ruined Star Wars.
Fucked that up every chance they could until they hit on the Mandalorian.
That's true. I mean, yeah. So maybe it's not fair for me to be like, yeah, they should just get a Kevin Feige, because like I'm sure every studio is out there like, yeah, well, we fucking want one.
Yeah, because Disney couldn't do it with Star Wars. DC can't do it with unlimited amount of heroes. Universal couldn't do it with their monsters.
Oh God.
Everybody that tries to do this fails except Marvel. And
I
don't know how long they can keep spinning all those plates.
And we might never. That's the thing. We like what Marvel has accomplished with. It's. I don't think we'll ever see anything like it again.
Yeah, I don't even particularly like the Marvel movies.
but you can't deny its success. So you can't deny its success. Like, and that is. I'll say this though. That is like, people are like, oh, DC sucks. Not all those Marvel movies are good.
The Snyder Cut is better than some of those Marvel movies.
Thor. Listen, Thor's. You can see it behind me. I have Thor and Silver Surfer. Thor's one of my favorite characters in all of comics. Thor: Dark World, his second movie, that shit is a piece of shit. And the second Iron Man's a piece of shit. Like,
I didn't think Age of Ultron was very good.
It's the weak link of them all. But then again, you're like, well, but like Infinity War. To me, outside of the Dark Knight, Infinity War is like one of those movies where when I watch it, I go, I can't believe they did, like, it's insane what they accomplished in Infinity War. Like, when I saw the midnight premiere of Infinity War, crowded theater, and people were like gasping in the theater. Like imagine being able to have that kind of reaction with comic book characters.
Yeah.
I don't think you'll ever see that again. But yeah, like DC, like it's one foot forward, 3 steps back. Again, Wonder Woman 1 is a really good movie.
Yeah, Wonder Woman 84.
I haven't seen 84 yet because I don't want to be let down.
Maybe we can review that next, because it's trash.
It's okay at best, I think.
Yeah.
But the first one is amazing.
Yeah, the first one was great.
The first one, to me, has one of the best scenes I've ever seen in a comic book movie, and it's it's during World War I, where what the hell is that place over in Germany called when they were fighting that war where like they said no man could pass? I can't remember what it was. But she goes through there with that shield blocking all the bullets and shit like that. So good. And I was like, yes, this is Wonder Woman. And then, like, I didn't even think Aquaman was that bad. The Aquaman movie, I didn't think that was that bad.
No.
I think if that Aquaman movie was in Marvel, everybody would have been like, this is brilliant. This is brilliant. But it's DC, so it has this stigma attached to it. And also, Shazam is actually a really good movie.
I think you needed that Aquaman movie before the Justice League movie, though. You needed an Aquaman movie first.
You needed all of it.
Yeah, you needed every one of them. It's mind-blowing. You'd think they'd want to make all those movies, too, to make more money.
And then guess what? Now, if you have the Flash movie and the Aquaman movie and and you don't even have to have a Cyborg movie, just have him appear in one of those movies. And now guess what? Your whole first act doesn't have to be all origin stories for some of these characters. The Justice League should already be formed.
Yeah. Yeah, and they would be good origin stories, too.
Right,
they wouldn't be these half-assed origin stories.
And man, like, why didn't they let him make a Man of Steel 2? And then I read this story, but I was going to blame DC, but it's not. It's Zack Snyder's fault. They were having a pitch meeting about what they wanted to do for Man of Steel 2. And someone was like, man, it'd be really cool. And this is how this shit goes. It'd be really cool if Batman was in it. And Zack Snyder was like, hell yeah, it would. Like, okay. Yeah, again, cool doesn't mean good. Because I can go on YouTube and just watch Batman and Superman. I'll go watch The Dark Knight Returns, which is probably the greatest comic book story ever written, and they fight in there. And you're not going to top that anyways. But again, Superman had just become, he just became Superman. Literally, like you should have had a whole movie about him dealing with being Superman, learning to embrace it, learning to deal with the public and their perception of it, while also trying to have a life as Clark Kent. And we didn't get any of that. They were like, hey, guess what? He's dead already.
Just kill his ass,
here. Yeah. And then they're like, well, his death doesn't mean anything. Dude, there were people bawling when Tony Stark died. I saw Endgame in a full theater, and the people, I ain't gonna lie. I won't lie to you guys right now. I was sitting there like this.
Yeah, it got me, man. When I went and saw it, it got me.
Because you watched him for 10 years as Iron Man.
Yeah, you have a decade to fall in love with this guy, and they're giving you 15 minutes of Cyborg and 15 minutes.
Yeah, Marvel played the long game, and that's what did, and they did it well. And DC needs to stop exactly what you said, Chad. They need to quit concerning themselves with Marvel and just play this long game and do it well. Because they have the characters.
The thing is, let's take Marvel out of the equation. You already proven that you can do it with the Dark Knight, and that was just a realistic, grounded Batman. No outside, no Superman, no none of that shit. Just Batman, and it was really about Bruce Wayne. If you think about those, Batman's hardly even in some of those movies. Like in the Dark Knight, he's Batman a lot, but in Batman Begins and the Dark Knight Rises, I watched the video. He's only Batman in like 30% of those movies. But we cared about it also helps that Christian Bale is like one of the best actors in the world. But you cared about that character. So when he fights the Joker and fights Bane and comes back after being broken and all this shit, you cared. It paid off. And for some reason, they were like, you know what? The Dark Knight was like critically loved and loved by audiences and made billions of dollars. Nah, we're going to go just full action and get rid of all of our stories. And this is the result.
Yeah. So I gave my 4 out of 5. I don't care. I'm sticking with it. I really enjoyed this movie. Chad, what do you give it?
3, a gracious 3.
Rich?
Wow. Yeah, I said 4 out of 5. Like a lot of the scenes they redid were so much better. The one that sticks out to me the most is when he went to fight the Amazons. And in the theatrical cut, he just kind of cuts his way out after they knock the doors down. I'm like, well, what was the point of knocking the doors down if he's just going to cut through it? But them blowing half the island up,
yeah,
I thought that was super,
super
impressive.
And it really caught me. It legitimately did catch me by surprise to see them come up out, like see the parademons come up out like that. And then him comes really flying through. That was a pretty cool touch.
And also that one had a payoff too, because she goes and visits that at the end too and stuff like that. Again, wow, you actually told a story, like everything connects as opposed to just this being here and this being here. Give me more of that.
And they explained it a little bit better why they were there.
Yeah.
In the original, Wonder Woman just kind of knew, like for some reason. They never explained why she knew. She just spit it out.
Yep. Yeah, and that's bad writing.
Yeah. I think this is. I think if you consider this like a Batman movie, this is better than some of the Batman movies that we've gotten since the '89 Batman for sure. This is middle of the pack of the Batman movies.
Yeah, not quite Christopher Nolan, but definitely better than Jeff Shoemaker's Batman.
Can we all agree?
I like this better than Dark Knight Rises.
Get out.
Yeah, I did not like Dark Knight Rises at all.
The only problem with the Dark Knight Rises is the stock market scene, and that's the only thing I'll say.
I thought it was boring.
Oh no, my God!
I enjoyed Dark Knight Rises. I think
you talk about crying, and the whole thing at the end with man, when Joseph Gordon-Levitt goes into that goddamn cave and that thing comes up, I was ready to get off, man.
Can we agree? Can we agree on one thing before we end this? Because we said we'd do a half hour, and we're already almost 50 minutes in. So, but can we agree on one thing?
Sure.
if Christopher Nolan, I almost said Chad Nolan. If Christopher Nolan, if Christopher Nolan would have ran with The Dark Knight Rises, right?
Mhm.
If he would have stayed on and Christian Bale would have stayed on with the Dark Knight trilogy, because you would have had Nighthawk, you would have had
Or Nightwing.
Nightwing. Yeah, what I say?
Nightwing.
I'm getting my Donald Duck.
You're good.
Yeah. No, Nightwing. We could have had the DC universe expand off of that. Imagine a world where Man of Steel is paired up with the Dark Knight Batman. That would be so
The
good.
problem is they made that Batman so limited as far, like, they went so realistic with it that I can't imagine that Batman being any help whatsoever to Superman. Like,
No, but
Christopher Nolan really
I think
grounded and stripped him of his
think
abilities.
they could have. I think if they would have leaned into Lucius Fox some,
True.
then I think that you get into the tech, almost like how Iron Man helps everyone.
Yeah, I mean, Iron Man and Batman are literally,
the same
yin
thing.
and yang,
Yeah,
so,
But
yeah.
that's what I'm saying. If you lean into the tech more and give Batman more tech, and
True.
then you build the DC universe off of that, that is a way better foundation than what they've put together here.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm sure. Well, Warner Brothers did. I think they offered Christian Bale $60 million to play Batman again, and he said no.
Yeah, but that would have been the ticket for DC.
They had the ticket. Man of Steel was perfect.
Yeah.
Man of Steel 2, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Flash, Shazam. Then you introduce Batman. You have a movie where Batman's like, he's like watching all these special people pop up, and then you could have went. I don't know if you guys read the comics, but the Tower of Babel, where Batman has the rest of the Justice League find out that Batman has a plan to be able to eliminate all of them at any point if they like go rogue and shit like that. And that's what that movie's about. And that's where I kind of thought they were going to go, but instead they blew their load and were like, we're going to have Batman and Superman fight right now to the death. And then it's gonna end when Batman and Superman find out their moms have the same name.
Yeah, that was oh
that
my
was
god!
so stupid.
I was in the theater when I saw that with my wife, and I just looked at her and I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?"
And
Their
don't even get me
moms have the
started.
same name.
Listen, I love Jesse Eisenberg. I think he's a great actor, and nobody can play neurotic better than him. But that's not Lex Luthor.
Man.
That's not Lex Luthor.
Mm-mm.
And
yeah.
And here, last thing for me. Now I gotta sit here and be sad that I'm never gonna have a Joe Manganiello Deathstroke versus Batman movie, because that would have been goddamn epic. I would have been willing to pay double price to watch a Batman movie involving Deathstroke as the main villain.
But again, why put that in if you're not going to do it? Like, why did they put that boat scene in, that yacht scene in, if they're not going to do it? That's frustrating, man.
Again, because it was for us to come on here and be like, wasn't that cool?
Yeah. Well, Rich, I appreciate you coming on. I know Chad does too.
Yeah, this was fun.
We should probably do this again, because there's a lot of stuff happening with Marvel that I'd like to dig into. And I know, Rich, you said you're not much of a Marvel guy, but
that's good though, because that can be the.
I still watch them, so
yeah. So I think this will be like a every once in a while bonus episode kind of thing. I enjoyed this, man. I get to nerd out a little bit.
Yeah, let me know.
And make sure you guys. I mean, I'm telling you, Rich does a really cool, and there's so many sports podcasts out there, but it's nice to go and listen, especially someone that you respect, to go on and listen to, talk about movies. And you never did Hereditary yet?
No, not yet. We'll probably get to it.
That is such a messed up movie, man.
Oh my god.
My wife made me watch it.
I think it's the best horror movie made in the last decade.
Oh my god.
I do the podcast with my wife, and we've already watched it. But we'll probably get to it again once she thinks
man,
about it.
Like my wife made me. I cringed. I just.
I like
thinking about that movie, man.
I like Midsummer quite a bit more, actually.
I haven't gotten up to watch that yet. I haven't.
Yeah,
I'm sure I'll watch it with her soon, but I haven't gotten myself there yet.
Yeah, it's one to definitely check out.
Yeah. Well, Rich, again, we appreciate you, man. It was good talking with you.
This was 412 Movies Talk.
Yeah, 412 Movie Talk. We will link all of Rich's info in the description of this episode. But again, it's Why Bloody Valentine, and you're pretty much on all platforms now.
Yeah,
right?
you can find it anywhere: Spotify, Apple, everywhere.
Cool.
Yeah, so check it out. It's a really good listen. Like I said, I'm not even a horror movie guy, and I've appreciated those episodes. So I guess we'll catch you all next week when we get back to our regularly scheduled
Sports talk.
podcasting. Yeah. All right, guys, take it easy.
Yep, have a good one.